Red Bull has always been a team built on bold decisions, but what happened after the British Grand Prix sent shockwaves through the entire Formula One world. Christian Horner, the man who had been at the helm since the team's debut in the sport, was suddenly sacked. After 19 years of victories, controversies, and dominance, it was over in a flash. Replacing him wasn't a manager nor a charismatic leader, but Laurent Mekies, an engineer. And according to Helmut Marko, this wasn't just a replacement. It was, in his own words, the right decision. But was it really? Or has Red Bull risked everything on a gamble that could change the DNA of the team? For almost 2 decades, Christian Horner had been synonymous with Red Bull racing. He led the team to 8 drivers' championships and 7 constructors' titles, guiding legends like Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen to the top of the sport. He was brash, confident, and deeply political, qualities that often kept Red Bull ahead both on and off the track. But in 2025, things started to unravel. The team that once dominated every corner of the calendar managed just 2 wins in the first 12 races. By mid-season, Red Bull was languishing in 4th place in the constructors' standings with 172 points, miles behind McLaren's staggering 460. For Marko, that wasn't acceptable. When asked why Horner had been removed, he pointed to various factors, but ultimately said the performance simply wasn't good enough. In a sport where results are everything, the honeymoon was over. That's where Laurent Mekies came in. The former Ferrari deputy, known for his technical expertise, was appointed CEO and team principal with immediate effect. His arrival marked a turning point in philosophy for Red Bull. Gone was the racer-turned-manager archetype Horner embodied. In his place stood an engineer, someone whose vision was rooted in the technical heart of Formula One. At first, the move looked risky. Mekies inherited a struggling team, one whose development seemed to have stalled while rivals surged forward. But it didn't take long for signs of revival to emerge. In his very first race weekend in charge, Red Bull grabbed a sprint victory at the Belgian Grand Prix. A statement, but not yet proof. It was Monza where things truly shifted. Max Verstappen took pole and stormed to victory, reminding everyone of Red Bull's raw speed. Yuki Tsunoda even managed to qualify inside the top 10, a promising sign until collision damage ended his race. Helmut Marko was quick to connect the dots. "I think that was the right decision," he declared. "In the complexity of Formula One, a technician at the top is probably the better solution. Everything is then built more from the technical side." It wasn't just praise for Mekies, it was a direct critique of Horner's era. For years, Horner's greatest asset wasn't his technical knowledge, but his ability to manage egos, fight political battles, and play the media game. Marko's words suggested that era had come to an end. What Red Bull needed now, in his eyes, wasn't politics, it was engineering. And to his credit, Mekies delivered quickly. Verstappen followed Monza with a podium in Zandvoort and another strong qualifying run. The team atmosphere seemed sharper, more collaborative. Drivers were more involved in the setup process, engineers had a clearer voice, and as Marko put it, the whole operation was working optimally. Suddenly, there was a sense that Red Bull hadn't just made a change. They had rediscovered their identity. But optimism has its limits. Even with Mekies in charge, Red Bull's championship hopes are all but gone. Verstappen sits 3rd in the standings, 94 points behind McLaren's Oscar Piastri. Mathematically, the title is still possible. Realistically, it isn't. McLaren's dominance in 2025 has been relentless, and Red Bull's resurgence came too late. As Marko himself admitted, the World Championship is over, but a few wins would still be nice. That, perhaps, is the key tension at Red Bull right now. Mekies may have stabilized the team and injected new energy, but Formula One is a results-driven business. Winning a handful of races will silence some critics, but the reality is that Red Bull, once feared as the unstoppable juggernaut of the grid, is now fighting for scraps. They sit 4th in the constructors, 21 points behind Mercedes and 41 off Ferrari. For a team used to dominating both championships, that is unfamiliar territory. The decision to fire Horner and appoint Mekies could define Red Bull's trajectory for years to come. if Mekies can leverage his technical background to reshape the team for 2026 and beyond. Marko's gamble may be remembered as visionary, but if Red Bull continues to falter, critics will argue that the team lost more than it gained when they cut ties with the man who built its empire. There's no denying that Red Bull still has firepower. Verstappen remains one of the most talented drivers on the grid. Tsunoda has shown flashes of brilliance despite inconsistency, and with Mekies orchestrating from the pit wall, there's a renewed sense of direction. The question is whether that direction leads back to the top or to further disappointment. For now, Marko is bullish. After Monza, he spoke of being at the front of almost all circuits for the rest of the season. He praised the way the team was working together, insisting that Red Bull had finally unlocked its true potential. And maybe, just maybe, that belief is enough to carry them to more victories before Abu Dhabi. Still, the shadow of Horner lingers. After nearly 2 decades of control, his absence is felt in every paddock rumor, every whispered debate among fans and insiders. Did Red Bull act too soon? Could Horner have turned things around with more time? Or was his style of leadership simply outdated in the hyper-technical world of modern Formula One? That's the paradox of Red Bull in 2025. On one hand, the team looks revitalized under Mekies, with fresh energy and technical focus. On the other, their results still lag behind their ambitions. They are caught between the legacy of a manager who defined an era and the promise of an engineer who might define the next one. As the season barrels toward its conclusion, the spotlight will remain fixed on Red Bull. Every result, every podium, every failure will be measured not just against McLaren, Mercedes, and Ferrari, but against the decision to end Horner's reign. For now, Helmut Marko insists it was the right decision, but history has a way of judging these moments differently. So what's your take? Did Red Bull make a brilliant move by putting an engineer in charge? Or have they set themselves up for decline by cutting ties with the man who made them champions? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, check out the next video appearing on your screen. Because in Formula One, success isn't just about who's fastest, it's about who adapts the quickest. And right now, Red Bull is betting everything on a new kind of leadership.